So, hey everybody, I've been I've been working on stuff, doing stuff, and I haven't been making videos because my mind has been on Mars. Basically, we've I've been rehearsing the play that I've been in. If you follow the channel for a while, then you'll know that I do some amateur acting, and we've been doing the same kind of thing every year around this time of year. There's a play, and it's about the Second World War in my town. So, and every year we have sort of we pick some names off a memorial that we have here, and we try to tell the story of what happened to these people, to these men, because there's only men on this. It's not only men, there's a couple of women there as well. Anyway, we usually start around January, and we have no script, so we just take the names and we do the research, and I say we, but actually the director does most of or basically all of the writing. And then we rehearse scenes and see what happens and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And in the end, you get a play. Now, we do this play only a limited amount of times in a small theater in our town. But, as you can imagine, it's very interesting to the people who live here, because they have a lot of references. They either know the families, or maybe they are family, or they know the locations, and we get a lot of attention. It's very difficult to get a full house in a theater in the town where I live, but we have managed that every single time that we've done a play in this theme. So this time as well, we played on May 2nd and May 3rd, and we did 2 on May 4th, which is the official Memorial Day for those who perished in the Second World War. And then May 5th is the celebration of the Liberation Day. So we sort of hook into that emotion, and it works very, very well, and it's very intense, and it's very emotional. You get a lot of feedback from the people who come and watch, and it's amazing. But we play death scenes, and we do our best to show the people what happened to these men that were taken from their homes one day in 1944 and just never returned. So this time we had 6 men, and they all went to a concentration camp, the same one, and well, we did that. So I was nervous, especially because we didn't have a lot of time. As an example, one of the last scenes, we literally played only, like, rehearsed one time on the Thursday before the week before we were playing, which was on Wednesday. So we hadn't done anything with sound yet. We hadn't done anything with lights yet, or positions, or there were some props, but, And I learned by repeating. I'm fine with playing in front of an audience. It's no problem, as long as I know what I have to say and when to say it, because I don't want to be on stage and be in a moment where I don't know what to say. That, to me, is hell. I'd be very uncomfortable. So I made little stage notes. It's also important to know that this is like a one-actor. Like, we don't go off stage. So I don't have any opportunity to look through my text to see where I am. So I have to memorize it all. And without repetition, I cannot memorize. So I made little notes. I sit off to the side a couple of times because my character dies right in the first scene, and after that I just become sort of a narrator and I play some extra parts. So I was nervous. I was nervous, and it was all I had on my mind, and I couldn't concentrate on a single thing. So I've been away, and I've been doing that. But we've done the play. I'm very proud of the fact that I've done it, and very proud of the fact that we've managed to reach so many people. You have to imagine that people come out of the stands in tears. You know, we have people who cry because they thought it was so moving, which I think is a great compliment to the writers, but also to the actors. As well, because, I mean, the actors may be a little bit extra because we have to learn this thing in a difficult circumstance, right? We have very little time to practice. So that's what I've been doing. On the other hand, and I'll show you. I've got these two Commodore 64 bread bin. Oh, you probably can't hear. These bread bin boards, right? This is one that works, but it has a bad SID. It also had like an. It looked very ugly. It had like a on the. Not this one. This one. On the kernel ROM, it had sort of. It was a DOS, like a disc-based ROM, and it had a toggle switch on the top, and it was ugly. And so I took it off. For the rest, that thing works, except the volume on the SID is very low. I have another bread bin that I thought worked, but doesn't, because I get a black screen, which I think might be the PLA. I'm hoping it has a good SID. So what I'm doing is I'm switching chips, right? Now, I'm not Gadget UK, I'm not Miss Mad Lemon, I'm not Jan Beta, I'm not Hans BWAC, for Christ's sake. I mean, these people actually know what they're doing, and I'm emulating. But I'm pretty good at emulation. So I've bought sockets. I've bought a new soldering tip, which I needed, but I got the wrong one, so my bad. And I've been at it. I've been working at it, and I'm actually filming it. So I'm not filming everything because me trying to desolder a PLA that doesn't want to come out with just a solder pump. I mean, it can be done. It just takes patience and a lot of trying. And I've gone over it the first run and the second run, and I have to just do it again. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to fix a Commodore 64. Maybe I'll have to buy a PLA. Maybe I'll have to buy a SID. Maybe I'll take all the chips out and buy one of those reloaded boards by independent computers. No, I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, iComp. They make the Mark II boards. In a new board, old chips, and you have a new Commodore 64. Anyway, I'm tinkering. I'm having fun. Also, the thing that got me tinkering is actually this. And I'm skipping ahead of myself because this is a tape deck that Giles gave me. And he'd given it a new belt, and but it has connectors on it that don't work. Now I went through a whole episode of figuring out what was wrong with this thing. I was putting the headphone jack in, but it was still producing audio out of the speaker, which I sort of figured was a feature of the thing. And I was recording the output. I was trying to record a game on my computer, like this, to a WAV file. And I could see Audacity recording the audio, but I didn't know that it was actually my headset microphone picking up the audio from here. It took a while for me to realize that the connector was loose. But when I wiggled it with my finger, I noticed, hey, it's loose. So I took out my good old Weller soldering station. It's a nice little station. It can control the temperature and everything. And I fixed it. So I thought, hey, that's cool. Let's get at the Commodores. And I started doing that. So that was the floor is covered in pliers and alcohol and solder and IC pulling devices, which aren't my friend, but so yeah, I look forward to that. It's going to take a while because I'm just an amateur, so that my battery's going dead, so I'm going to have to switch in a bit. There is time for a little bit of space news. Very recently, NASA have launched the InSight spacecraft, which is going to Mars. It's going to be there in about 200 days from the day of recording. This, it's going to do the thing that Mars vehicles have done before. It's going to jump out and land itself. It has like retro thrusters and it'll set itself down, but it won't be driving around. It'll be stationary and it will be doing seismic research. Previous devices have also done seismic research, but it wasn't sensitive enough. It could sense its own motions but not like the tectonic movement of the planet itself. Also, there's going to be something drilling, I think, 5 meters into the planet itself, and it's going to be measuring temperatures and all that. So it's going to be interesting. And they're going to be 2 suitcase-sized satellites, like box satellites. I think they're called Marcos or Macos, and they're going to be handling the communication from the InSight craft on the surface to the orbit, and then from orbit to Earth. And these 2 are called Wally and Eve. Well, it's a reference to the Wally movie. I think that's a Disney. Is that a Disney movie? I don't know. Pixar maybe, or Pixar is Disney, or I don't keep track, but Wall-E. We all know Wall-E. So that's a bit of space news that I know. I just read, not the article, but I read a headline of someone saying we're going to the moon, which I think it's good time that we just started getting back into the moon. Come on, guys. The moon it's just, Jesus. It's just the moon. It's close. We should be able to get there. We should be able to go on holiday on the moon by now. So, we're going to go to the moon. Which, some people say, well, there's nothing on the moon. No, but you see, this is space. This is nature. Space is filled with flying rocks with nothing on it. Space is cold. It's dark. It's large, and there's only a tiny few amount of planets that may be interesting. The rest is all ice and rock and sand. Space is interesting to geologists, right? I mean, space becomes interesting with us in it. So, I'm all for going, but don't expect to go to Mars and find excitement. It's not Total Recall up there. It's just nothing up there. It's rocks. Everywhere you go, it's rocks. There's not a town. There's not a road. There's not a telephone. There's nothing. It's boring. So still, you want to go to the moon just because, not because of what's up there. Maybe there's helium though that might be nice, but we want to do the exercise. We want to be able to get there. I want to be able to do that play, and I'm proud of it, and I think I've grown because of it, and we should do that as well. If we ever want to have a chance at leaving this planet, because I don't think, well, we have to do our damnedest to save this planet, but I think humanity is best served by, spreading our chances a little bit across the universe. Big words. I'm gonna change the battery because it's getting on my nerves. Hold on. So if the angle's different, I did something. I touched something. Remember Ghostbusters? I'm going to talk about tape games on the Commodore 64 now, right? This is going to be gaming related. Remember Ghostbusters on the Commodore 64? And I'm sure that Ghostbusters was on other different platforms as well. I'm talking about the original one. Ghostbusters 1, not 2. I don't think I've ever played that. So let me take you. This is going to be more interesting if you know the game, but it's leading up to something, right? So here's how I played it. Remember all the games that I had for my Commodore 64? I'm lying. It wasn't mine. It was Frank's. I spent like half my youth at Frank's house because he had a Commodore 64. And I never saw a commercial game for the Commodore 64. Yeah, so the first games on the Commodore that we came into contact with was just a bunch of tapes that we borrowed off a guy. This guy, like a grown-up, a friend of his family, Frank's family, I don't know. This man, I can remember going to his house. In his living room, he was sitting on the couch. His living, and he had a wife and kids. His living room was built around his Commodore 64. He was sitting on the couch, the Commodore on a coffee table in front of him. I mean, talk about ergonomics and backaches. And he had it attached to the family television, like a big-ass color television. And he was programming a bridge simulator, like the card game. He was a commercial programmer, and this grown-up person gave us a bunch of tapes, and he said, "Have fun with it. I'll give them back to me after the holiday or something." So we were being sneaky, and we copied all the tape. We copied all the tapes, and we just put in a tape and press load and press play and just see what happened. This is the first time that we saw games running on the Commodore 64. It was exciting. And we started writing down the numbers of the counter and all tape, right? I hate tape because it takes long and it's a waste of time and I don't have any patience. And then finally we had to figure out like the screws, like aligning the head because it wouldn't load and blah, blah, blah. It was pains and aches. So, along comes the disk drive. We move ahead. We forget the tapes, and we go to this computer club, and they crack Ghostbusters. And Ghostbusters spreads. I can still remember the evening. Ghostbusters spreads like wildfire. Everyone is copying this game, and everywhere, every computer you hear Ghostbusters, and the whole thing. So here's the game, right? You start with the Activision, like the cool voice synthesis and the music, which is all pretty good. and then you load up your car. No. First, you type your name. Then they ask you, do you have an account number? So I never got this. What game starts with, do you have an account number? So we tried numbers, but it was never correct. So you start off with a basic amount. Then you select the car. But, you have a very limited, I think you have $10,000. So you buy the car first. You try the Volkswagen Beetle, but then, you really want the hearse, so you buy that one. Then you buy the vacuum cleaner for sucking up the roamers. You get the PKE meter. You get the ghost bait. And then you can buy 3 or 4 traps. And then there's another screen that says, you can also get like a mobile ghost container or something like that. But you can never afford it. So it was the same every time. And, you wonder like once and you wonder twice. And then it sort of goes to the back of your mind. It's like, this is how we play the game. We get the game started and we start rolling. So you get the map and you drive your little car around and you figure out that there's these roamers that come in from like the 4 sides, and when your route touches them, they freeze, and you run into them when you go into a building, right? Because then you move to the driving scene, and then the roamers come by, and you suck them up with your vacuum cleaner. And then you go to the building, you catch the Slimer, you put it in your trap, and then you go to the next one. As you go on, the city's PKE meter rises, and you earn more and more money. The game goes on. The roamers come faster and faster and faster. Your account goes up, and then all of a sudden, the 4 roamers, they come together somewhere in the city, and they form the Marshmallow Man. And the Marshmallow Man demolishes a building, and you were fined $4,000. Well, in that time, the aim is to earn more than $10,000 because that's what the bank gave you. $4,000, away goes your money. The Marshmallow Man can do that, his building stomping thing 3 or 4 times, and then it's game over. And you get the end screen, and it says, well, you have less money than you started with. Better luck next time. And that's it. That was the game for me. And for the longest time, I just didn't get it. And I never got further. So, point of my story is, just recently, this gets back in my mind. I think this stupid Ghostbusters game, and I've started it up, in between the years. I just, every now and again, I thought, let's give it a whirl again. So I play the game, and it's just the same again. So, it's reasonably fun. So now I'm finally going on YouTube, watching a long play, watching someone finish the game. And what do I see? At the moment that these roamers come together and form the Marshmallow Man, the Marshmallow Man goes to where the Ghostbusters car is. He gets a little sad face and he dies. And what's more, the mayor pays you $2,000 for preventing a marshmallow catastrophe. So I'm thinking, what's going on? Obviously, there's something in the game that you're not doing with your joystick or your button, because that doesn't do anything at that stage. So I'm looking for the instructions, and I'm seeing, the key to like the game is to press B at the moment that the Marshmallow Man forms. So you put down some bait. That's what the ghost bait was for that you bought at the beginning of the game, which I never understood. Why I thought the ghost bait is for catching Slimer. It's not. It's for catching the Marshmallow Man. So Marshmallow Man comes, and I think I'm just press B. And all I needed to know, and then you do this a couple of times until the ghost bait runs out. But then when the PKE level reaches 10,000, the game ends. And if you're balance is higher than the balance that you started with, then you progress to the next level of the game, which is trying to get 2 Ghostbusters under the big hopping Marshmallow Man between his legs up the building and end the game there. I've not managed to do that. I don't know the trick yet of getting the little Ghostbuster guys between the Marshmallow Man's legs. But here's my point. I should have had the manual. But I didn't. I never had the manual. I grew up with the idea that it was okay to have like a pirated copy or a copied version of the game, at least in some form, not an original. And I never even thought about the manual. And this is in a time that games don't explain how they work. You just have to read the manual. So here I am thinking, well, what am I going to do about that? I have to get these manuals. I can download the game. I can download the manual, but what do? Right? The game you put on a little SD card, and I put it in my Ultimate, and I played on the Commodore, which is fine, or on the emulator, on Vice or whatever. But the manual, the best thing you do is like you print it on like standard A4 or whatever legal paper size. You print it and you have a little stack lying around, or you put it in a folder, but you never read it. It's not accessible. It's not there. Then you can try and make an actual manual, which is going to cost you a lot of money, which I tried, which I'm not doing again. So I thought I could get the original games off eBay, but then disc games for the Commodore 64, where I live, forget it. £60 and up. And I say pounds because hardly any other country except the UK has people selling Commodore games on eBay in disc form. I've seen a couple in Spain, I've seen a couple in Germany, but it's very, very sparse. And I don't know where all these discs have gone. What happened to them, I don't know. So I thought I'll do this. I'll get tape games. I hate tape games. Right? So, but I'm not. Here's what I want to do. Just as a technical exercise, I want to be able to play my game, my copy of the game on the Commodore 64. So I'm gonna try and convert the WAV file. I'm going to connect the tape player to my sound card. I'm going to start Audacity. I'm going to record whatever comes out. I'll have a WAV file. The WAV file can be converted to a TAP file. There's probably tools. Jan Beda said that he'd done that successfully. So I want to try this with one tape. On a side note, if you go to Jeff Minter's archive, and I say archive because everything is sheep related, he has a archive where he has tape and disc versions and manuals for every one of his Commodore 64 games and other platforms, and I'm just concentrating on Commodore here. Downloading for free, and they all are accompanied with a little text that says, we feel that if our games are old enough to be played on an emulator, we're not going to make any money with them anymore, so you're free to play them. So just go to the archive, BAA archive, and just download all the games. There's everything is there, so you can get the images there. So I'm just going to try and do that with these games, because this is Alley Cat. Alley Cat by Andrew Braybrook. Yes. Published by Hewson. Alley Cat is I played it. It has an unfortunate name. It's got nothing to do with cats or alleys. This is a sort of mix between Wipeout and something else came to my mind. But it's sort of a Wipeout game. And look, it's got the manual. It's got everything you need to know. And these Braybrook games, sorry if you can, these Braybrook games, you can forget about trying to play them without reading the manual. It's complicated. It's a complicated game. It's even a 2-player game if you want to. Here, press fire to open the racing season, right? You will be presented with a list of races separated into months. Scroll up and down. You may select only races that you can afford. Current account is shown at the top. In guineas, that's funny, right? Right now we'd say credits, probably. You begin with no money. The first 5 races are free to enter. It's all information that... There's a Cater Killer and a Gravocraft. All information that you don't get when you don't get the manual. But now I have the manual. And I don't care whether it's a disc or a tape game, because I'm not going to actually use the tape. I mean, look at it. Houston. Look at it. This was your product, right? It's very cheaply made. Extremely cheap. But it's got the manual, which is the thing for me. Revenge of the Mutant Camels by Jeff Minter. I can download the thing, but lo and behold, manual. It's got information, especially Minter games, man. Those are some weird games. Iridus Alpha. Try playing that without a manual. Forget it. Grid Runner. I mean, these games, Grid Runner. Here we go, manual. And I make sure that I buy them with the manual. And they're like £2, £3. It's just the medium that is cheap. Matrix. In one of these soft clam things. Matrix. Cool, isn't it? Matrix. Also Jeff Minter? Also Jeff Minter. Right. Laser Zone. Also Jeff Minter. 1983. Great stuff. Attack of the Mutant Camels. Again. Minter. Iridium and Paradroid. Double tape version. With manuals. Great stuff. Now, I'm trying to play. I'm trying to find. You know, I'm concentrating on the more revered titles, like the ones that I know. But there are loads more, like Houston titles and Minter titles. But I was looking into platformers like the Great Gianna Sisters. I didn't even know that was on C64. If you look for platformers on the C64, there's loads. I was doing that because I was trying to make a video about Sam's Journey and other platformers like Monsters in Mayhem in Monsterland. Sorry, and there's loads more. There's loads more, and lots of bad ones too. But you know, nothing that comes close to Sam's Journey. That's really good, even compared to the entire history. But Mayhem in Monsterland is actually a pretty good game. So some of these games, Cytronic are releasing a 25th anniversary version of Mayhem in Monsterland, if they ever open their store again, because they're very busy, apparently, with Pains and Aches and Steel Ranger. Those were pre-orderable, still are, I believe. You can, but at this moment, you can only buy games from Cytronic by downloading them. So sort of the store is closed because we're busy at the moment. So, but I'm finding, I'm trying to find, and I'm finding in some cases some really good titles on tape, just for the manuals. And that's what I was going to say. Yeah, well, I think that's it. You'll be seeing a repair video and it's, I can now understand why some of these repair videos are a bit messy. I mean, I have the greatest respect for people who can make like a well-edited repair video, because there's a lot of work. I mean, filming, I just keep your, try to, how am I going to say this? If you watch some of these polished repair videos, sometimes there are shots of someone unscrewing a single screw, right? You have to set up that shot, like soldering a single point. Anything that is given the opportunity of a shot in a video means there's sound and there's setup. There's time gone into making that single shot. So my efforts were more like me talking about and showing what I'm about to do, but I might film a little soldering here and there, but I'm not gonna do the entire process, because it's just I know what's gonna happen. People are gonna say that there's dog hair on my carpet, which is impossible because there's no dog ever been in here. It's cat hair. And they're going to say that I'm not ESD safe. And they're going to say that I should hold stuff differently, or that I should do so. I know. I'm learning, right? I'm learning. So, I don't want to do it that way. I'm just going to show you the result. And if it fails, I'll show it as well. But that's what I'm doing. And I'm done talking. So I'm going to thank you for watching this long, because it's been a long video, I know, but I've been away for a while. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.